that you start a podcast with like a little chat beforehand.
Oh, the camera's on. I didn't realise.
Yeah. Are we rolling?
I've just been my natural self anyway. So,
So I want to sit where Lewis is because that's my better side.
yeah.
That's why I'm sat here.
This side of my face doesn't work. This side does.
Yeah, I just said
you've got me
sitting
from
under
that.
that table would be your better side.
Thanks. Bullying and harassment.
There's no fucking pee in this place.
HR!
We also need to put a disclaimer in about swearing because potty
yeah.
mouth over there.
No, I'm good at that normally. I can keep the swearing down to a minimum.
Parental guidance at the start. Nice little sign, I think.
Go on then, Dino.
So yes. So guys, first of all, welcome. All be nice sitting round with you four. But finally, the powers that be have seen the error of their ways, and we've got a podcast.
The error. I mean,
Start that one again, thanks, Dean. Everybody wants you to see out your probation period.
This probation period keeps
the
growing.
powers that be are sitting here.
I know.
He's like, no, we're not doing a podcast. We're not doing a podcast.
and then he's involved in it.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, I know we've been talked about it for
Years. It has
We were
been
just
a long
waiting
time.
for the first to find somebody who could present it, and eventually we just gave up, didn't we? We might as well just go with Dean.
That is pretty much it.
yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah.
We've got Dean presenting the podcast.
yes, guys. But no, I know it's been talked about for years, and they always say it's fashionable to be late to a party, and the best arrive last. So yeah, we're going to have a good chat today about this, that, the other, everyone's opinions, and yeah, finally we're into spring. Has anyone actually been fishing?
I ain't done a lot, to be honest with you. It's like the real world gets in the way most of the time. I've been trying to fish a real secret lake where I'm not allowed to say anything. And that's sort of when you get to a commercial side.
He has been fishing, but he's not telling
A
us.
commercial side of life, it's not a good thing. It might feel good to you, but it's not good to the people that support you. So no, I haven't done a lot. I've had a lot of hospital stuff, and that's still ongoing. But yeah, I've done a little bit, but not as much as I want to.
Secret lakes, though, they still exist? Secret lakes.
I think they do.
you just don't
There's
know
quite
about
well, that's it. They're a secret. There's a lot of like non-publicity venues about. Like I'm a member of a non-publicity venue. I think you have just dropped your ticket on one. You've got a ticket on one.
Yeah, I've got I mean, the guy bought the land. This is unbelievable. I'm not giving too much away. The lake is actually in the Northern Hemisphere, by the
That's
way.
it, banned.
That's it. Yeah, probably banned forever. But they didn't even know it had a lake on it. And his son sent up a drone, and they saw a little bit of water, and they cut their way through, and kept on cutting their way through until eventually Lee, his son, saw carp boshing all over the place. And,
Lee, his son. Northern Hemisphere.
Oh yeah,
Lee's
this
son.
is not so secretive
Nick
now.
Foley.
Chilly, what are you doing?
Recently purchased land. Googling now.
This is being recorded.
it could have been the daughter, actually. They found his
It's
lake.
in the Lee Valley. That's
Lee,
there you go.
It's in the Lee Valley.
Yeah, it is mad. That's
Leeds,
how
man.
the Rob Ailes' The Stitch got found. Rob said he travelled that road for years and didn't know that lake was there because it was in the middle of a pine forest. And literally, they just cut through. Eventually, there's this like 25 acre.
Imagine
lake.
what would have happened if you'd used Google Earth. You'd have known about it a long time before.
It is mad. I was speaking to Ed Matthews as well.
I'd have to argue against that, actually, because I'm old.
That's the thing. Google Earth now has played a massive part in this, isn't it? These secret lakes that were are no longer because there's access to this, that, and you can get your hands or your eyes on anything now, can't you?
Yeah, you can study the whole of the world if you want to find secret things. Depends whether they've got carp in them or not. That's the interesting point.
Yeah.
Used to
That's
be. Used to be.
You've been to Croatia?
I've actually been fishing 3 times in the last few weeks.
That's more than what you normally do in a whole year.
Yeah.
2 of them really weren't of any relevance whatsoever. One was a work party night. I slung 3 zigs out, went round and had a barbecue. With one before that was my first overnighter since July last year, and it literally was an overnighter. Slung 2 zigs out, bait boated one out. There's controversy for you.
See,
What
And
did
then,
you look at me?
and then I'd had a curry and round that one in the next morning. So I actually class those 2 as not even fishing; they were just camping. But yes, I went to Croatia. Yes.
How was it?
Surprisingly hard and cold.
Oh, yeah.
I say hard because we went to Chiarchi, and that's known for having thousands of fish in it, and it still has got loads of fish in it. I think we ended up with 35 between me and Sean for 5 nights. But I think we probably expected a bit more.
Very disappointing that.
Yeah.
35 fish in 5 nights. Gutted.
If I caught that in a year, I'd be leaving up.
Yeah, but that is the sort of thing that you could catch in a day when it's on.
You could do. And then, like, I've been before, but it was like a couple of years ago in the winter. It was February, and it snowed, and it was freezing, and we had a few then, but it wasn't hectic. And I quite like not hectic fishing these days. So he was like, yeah, as it gets warmer, you know, you just fish for the day. At night, get a couple as the rods go, leave them in, and then recast the next morning. I was like, that's sweet. That sounds a bit of me, that. First day we got there, chucked them out, and then caught at night. I was like, ooh.
Don't like that.
So anyway, next day, wakes up, got the rods back out, spotted out, and it was blowing a northeasterly. It was bloody freezing. It was windy. It was 140 yards. It was hard work.
A lot of excuses.
No excuses because we caught fish. So there you go. And the wind calmed down after a couple of days, made the fishing a bit easier. And then we started to catch a few in the day, but definitely as the sun went down in the evening, we started catching.
Yeah.
And even I sent you a message. You'd be proud of me. You know, it was dark.
Yeah,
Had a bite, recast one.
Very unlike you to
recast. You sent me a picture of one that's like fins. I swear its tail must have been like that.
Yeah.
For people who are listening, I've got my hands really far away apart. But
6 inches.
No, like its fins were a joke.
Yeah.
Like they look like they'd fight ridiculously hard.
Yeah, they
and
do
where you're
fight.
hooking them from a long, long way away.
Yeah, they're just kiting, just steady it, you know, and then you get them in, and you think I've just dragged it in from 140 yards, it'd be knackered, but no. They get under the rod tips, quite deep under the rod tip, and they just plough around for a few more minutes. But yeah, it's good for testing products.
You had quite a few sneaky products.
Yeah, some very successful as well, so we're very happy with that.
Was it a work trip then? Was it?
It was a holiday.
It was a
But,
holiday.
you know, I'm always working
Yeah.
the way it is.
Sacrifices.
Oh, yeah, it's me.
Bless
It's
his
the way I do
heart.
it. Never on holiday.
Nice.
Yeah, I was
You need time off.
I was out filming the challenge last
Yes.
week.
Yeah,
First
that's
challenge in a
interesting.
while, which was really nice. Really nice. It had definitely like a vibe of going back to the sort of earlier challenges. I think part of that might have been because Kieran, our cameraman, decided that he was a 15-year-old boy for the weekend and went to a skate park and broke his wrist.
So you ended up filming.
So I haven't been filming the challenges. I've been on the shoots, but for the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't actually been filming them. Mainly because I think it's always best if the person who's filming them then edits it. I think they've got it more in their head of how it's going to look. So we haven't done that. We haven't done it as it originally was for quite a while. And it was nice. I think it's going to be funny. It was certainly challenging. It's really tight and close. Mark catches some lovely fish. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that. That was at Doddington Lane Pit. So we fished on Pit 1 and Moon Lake. So both two very, very different lakes. Moon Lake is like 50 odd acres. Really, really big open windswept pit, about 8 to 9 foot deep. And then Pit 2, Pit 1, which is literally just next door, is a sort of 2-3 acre lake that's like 20, 30 foot deep. So two completely different lakes, lots of different types of fishing. It should be a really good program.
Got some lovely fish in there as well, haven't they, to be fair?
Yes.
Really nice fish.
Yeah. Those, I think they're Andy Parker fish, and they're like the similar ones to a lot of the scalies that are in Grenville that are obviously very, very famous. So, I think.
Yeah, did you catch any of those lovely scaly fish?
Well, people will have to watch the challenge to find out. Yeah.
Absolute tease.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice area. I'm on Mary Syndicate, which is part of that complex in a way. I think they're the same owners, aren't they, of Doddington and whatever. And I love those Nene Valley fish. Are just beautiful, nice gin clear waters. Does prone for flooding now and again, but I just like that area of the country for fishing. It's absolutely spot on.
It is a very good area. Lots and lots of big, and there'll be with just that complex in 3, 4, 5 years' time. There's going to be so many big fish. I think there's a lot of venues that are like that, sort of coming through with really good young fish that are going to be massive.
Massive pike in the Moon Lake as well. Did a £40
Is
pike
there?
before the
Did a
season.
40-pounder?
Yeah.
Wow.
On a solid PVA bag.
Classic predator.
What with tuna in it?
Young lad just with a little wafter hook bait, I think, on a solid bag. Caught it at £40 an ounces, I think.
I'm surprised Mark didn't have it. That's what he was. What he was doing without giving too much away.
Was it?
Targeting a £40 pike with a solid.
Nice.
They don't allow pike fishing on there. I wouldn't have talked about it if they did, but they.
What, because in the winter you're a secret pike angler?
Yeah, I do my pike fishing in the winter, and they said no to allowing pike fishing on there. So I'll talk about it because the only way you're going to catch it is on a solid PVA bag.
Probably an infinitely better way of catching pike going over the years taught me. Just they can be a nightmare sometimes.
Yeah. Sardine inside it.
Yeah. Plans for the future? What you've got plans this year going forward?
Have you
now?
fished, Lou?
Yeah, Dean doesn't care about my
Oh,
fishing.
right.
just move on. Just move on. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, can we get
Have
Louis
you been out?
involved
Sorry,
in
Lou,
it?
have you been out, mate?
I have been out, Dean. Yes, thanks for asking. I've done an overnighter, a quick overnighter, normally lasting for between 20 to 24 hours. For 3 weeks on the bounce on my new syndicate in Peterborough, Green Acres. I'd
Lovely venue.
waited a long time to be able to fish there. I was banned or blacklisted for 7 years. We don't need to go into details why, but there's a new owner.
You can't drop that bomb. I was banned or blacklisted, but I'm not going to tell you why.
There's a new owner, lovely new owners, and
Sounds like the original owner.
The slate has been wiped clean.
they don't hold grudges, and I was welcomed there with open arms, and it's been very welcoming. Syndicate, the first 3 trips I've done, blanked the first trip. Second trip, caught a upper double, so not massive, but always great to get your first fish on a new ticket. And then last week I blanked again because I went and fished in deep water when I should have been fishing on shallow water or fishing zigs because the pressure was sky high and very warm. But I decided to just do exactly the same thing I'd done the week before in the same swim because that's
a bad angle.
terrible angling. Yeah.
Terrible angle. Come on.
Yeah, I fished with my memories, not with my eyes on that trip. So yeah, but it's been great. Awesome lake, beautiful lake. Nene Valley gravel pit again, like Doddington complex, and some real big fish.
What's the biggest in there?
There's a £50 common in there, apparently.
Wow.
I didn't really know a lot about the stock. I haven't really kept in touch with it because it was never really an achievable lake for me whilst I was on the do not touch with a barge pole list. So, there's no point in thinking about things that you can't have. I concentrate on on what's achievable. But then, since I've been able to get on, I like the idea of not knowing what's in there a lot of the time as well. Like I've had people come in the swim going, "Oh, I don't really want to know." Like, let me catch something and then ask what it is. I had a 19-pounder the other day. Like, I'm not bothered about it. That hasn't got a name. But I know there's a £50 common and some. I think they said about 10 mirrors over £40 or something. So that's
So you're not going there with a target in mind. You're just
catching fish,
just
catching
and
fish.
enjoying it along the
It's
way.
15 minutes from home. It's great for overnighters. Apparently, when it warms up, they love bait. It's one of them. The more you feed them, the more you catch. That's what everybody's telling me. One of the rules. There's only 10 rules. Love lakes with hardly any rules. Much harder to get banned. And
Hardest to get originally, by the sound of it.
but one of the rules is that you have to have at least 2 landing nets set up because it's so prolific. So I like that. That's always a good rule when you join somewhere. Albeit it hasn't been that prolific yet, but we are really early doors. I think just because the sun's shining, everybody thinks it's silly season, but we are still very early in the year.
They're definitely from what I saw on the challenge last week, they're not like ravenous on.
I'm
bait,
so
yeah.
glad you said that, because I forgot to tell you I did some filming with my old mucker Brad Walker the other week, and I was going to go on one particular water that would have been, it's difficult any time of year, so we changed to somewhere else with the old Essex syndicates on the Mill Syndicate lake, and it was just so ridiculously cold at night, and it really was. The pressure went through the roof, and we sort of saw very little wind. I won't tell you the outcome of it all, but I've never seen so many remote controlled boats whizzing in front of me and taking out my lines, and generally it was just a nightmare. But I had some fun, had a smile along the way, as you always should when you're fishing. But I forgot to tell you about that. Sorry.
Yeah. But it is like there's going to be a switch that flicks any time now, probably when that pressure drops, which I think it's due to drop
Sunday
on
into Monday.
Sunday into Monday.
Southwesterlies coming in, 1,000 air pressure, game on.
What's the water temp? Because even though
it's going to be it's over 10.
Yeah,
it's into 11s now, most places. 11s, 12s now.
It was interestingly at Doddington, the deep, as you'd expect, the deeper, smaller lake was noticeably colder than the sort of big but shallower one. So those shallower venues and shallower areas, like obviously they're the places that people need to be fishing.
Just, that's unbelievable. Point you say about water temperature. I have never ever, not in my life, put a thermometer in or was bothered about the water temperature. And I think that's where watercraft comes into it. And you talked about areas you should fish to get the results you want. And in the coldest, most horrible conditions, if you get that side of it right, then you'll catch fish. But it's having those opportunities these days to go and do that kind of fishing. And,
it's like places are more and more busy. Yeah. So like quite often getting in the shallow area at this time of year, you've got to time it right, not just with the weather and everything, but with other angles. And everybody else is going to be looking at the weather as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you can do that when you've got to book the swim 2 years in advance. You know what I mean? That is just so far beyond my comprehension.
Which is why you're now fishing on a secret lake.
I think isn't the water.
Well, nobody can watch how badly I'm fishing. There aren't many people there.
Isn't it? I thought it'd be warmer, but I think we're unexpectedly it's a little bit colder than people perceive, simply because we've had some sun for a few weeks. Like, I know Croatia's a totally different country, clearly, but they'd had a load of rain before we got there. When we flew in, the rivers were flooded into the fields.
Are you making more excuses again about why you only have 35?
I don't need to make.
It's been so cold.
I don't need to make excuses. I haven't done 2 quick overnighters and blanks, so I'm all right. No, I have actually. No, but it was like, and the swim was flooded, so we spent most of the week in waders. And the one time I didn't put waders on, I walked to the front of the swim in my sliders, and it was freezing. So that water, I know they've had a lot of influx of water there, but when we did a work party the other week down the Mere, the water still felt cold. Colder than I expected.
The sun's not high enough in the sky, and with those clear days, the sun's just not high enough to warm things up. And then at night, the heat just goes straight back up to the sun.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities. On every lake now there are opportunities.
Oh, yeah, there's opportunities.
It has been sunny. So like in the especially afternoons were really good for us last week when that sun has been heating the water all day. I know it's getting cold and dropping off at night, but when it's been heating the water and getting and warming it up all day, then fish are moving about and I don't think they're eating bait, but zigs, singles, solids.
Well, that's the one
stuff
thing people
like
don't
that.
want to do, isn't it? Zigs. They want to stick a bit of bait out like they've been told to do and sit on it until it happens and thinking it's going to happen at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when it's all quiet on the lake, and it's not going to. And zigs is the way, it should be.
Zigs are shallow. Zigs in shallow water.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference, though, as in people's results. The sun's out, the fish are active, people are seeing them, but they're not feeding because I think the water temperature's still cold. At nights, it's been going. When was the last time? Like up until a couple of weeks ago, we'd had frosts nearly every morning for 3 weeks plus. I remember
it
maybe
has
one
been
or two
cold.
mornings that we've not had ice on
Well,
the
we've
van.
had frosts at home the last 3 mornings.
Yeah. But I mean, there was
I'd
a
say
little
it was 3 or
gap.
4 when we walked out at 7 o'clock
But
this morning.
we're at that
It was
time of year
freezing.
now where there's more. The warm daytime is doing more good than the harm that the night time's doing.
Yeah.
Like we're getting marginal gains now, you know, and the water temperature is getting up.
But I still think we're playing catch up because we had that frosts for so many weeks. I can't remember a winter. It's not been a particularly cold winter. Don't get me wrong. In terms of previous years where we've had big freezes for long periods of time, but as a prolonged period of time, lots of frosts every
proper
night
winter.
consistently. It's knocked everything back. Clocks have changed. We're getting more daylight hours. I just think it's a little bit behind. I think, you know, the sun's giving them activity. They're moving, but they're not eating.
We're definitely late on it. But yeah, like I said, we're gonna get that switch to low pressure literally any minute now.
You say we're late on it, but this time last year we had snow, so we're ahead.
Did
of,
we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had a lot. Yeah, I
true,
remember.
isn't it? Yeah.
But we had a mild winter.
Yeah. We're ahead. We're
Yeah,
probably
we're
experiencing the proper seasons for the first time for a long time. We had a
Which
proper
is great.
winter,
I
and
think
now we're
it's
having
wonderful for the water quality, wonderful for the fish. Everything goes back to how it should be.
the fish.
you
They've
know?
certainly had a rest this winter because,
without a doubt.
the last few winters, I think there was a lot of fish getting caught.
From a health point of view as well, rather than going from being it freezing cold, boiling hot, and then they spawn really quickly with no build up. Now that the water's warming gradually,
This'll do 'em the
it's
world
gonna,
of
they're,
good,
they're going to be much healthier when they do spawn.
Good point.
Yeah, but I think you're right, mate. I think any minute now you're going to have that blow up on social media where every venue just starts catching fish.
It's going to happen about 7:30 on Monday morning, okay?
You get out.
You're going to be up.
When I saw the weather, it didn't matter. I changed hospital appointments and everything when I saw the weather. I'm going fishing.
I'm fishing as well, but it's on no publicity, so you won't know about it, unfortunately.
Sneaky.
No,
where are you going to go?
Can't tell us.
I can't tell you. But you might let me show you a carp I catch. I don't know. I want to. I've got a good ticket come June. Somewhere I wanted to fish for a long time. I won't tell you about it right now. I'll tell you the story and when it starts. And it's a place I've wanted to fish for a long time. And I've now got a ticket in my pocket and very happy with that. I shall be. I'll tell you all about it another time.
So, anyone else's plans for the future of 2025? Where are you heading, Scott?
Anybody else? But you were looking at me, yeah?
Yeah.
My last few years, my fishing's
Here we
been
go, get the
pretty-
excuses in.
Last few years.
You're getting battered.
Just like a politician, just answer the question, man.
Sorry, Scott, you were saying.
No, I haven't. I've made plans the last few years to go a bit more, and I haven't.
Yeah.
And so I do want to go a bit more, but I've been doing loads at the house. Freddie's still young, so he takes up a lot more time. But yeah, I'm planning to get out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Obviously, just been to Croatia. I'm going to fishing in. I'm going to go with Bled in October.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't even know if I'll go with him anymore. Oh, his son is
You've got a
absolutely
Bled.
battered.
You got a Bled trip.
We're going to. It's going to be really hard. It'll be cold, and
Yeah.
no doubt it'd have rained before we went. And,
Get the excuses in early.
I'm sure it would have rained at least once before October. We've got Bled. We've got underwater filming.
Yeah,
that's
end of the month.
Yeah, I've done Croatia, underwater filming, got Bled. I'll be doing just little bits and bobs down the Syndicate Lake and some random stuff here and there. So
I mean, there's some quite exciting trips. Like Bled is ridiculously
for sure.
exciting.
Is that the place
be
with
cool.
the beautiful buildings that you have?
It's got the castle on the island.
Yeah, it looks absolutely stunning. It looks like something out of a fairy tale, doesn't it? It's unreal.
What do they go to in there, in Bled?
This big fish.
Yeah, upper 70s, I think.
Is there?
Yeah, I think I saw
And
one the other day.
a good head of like sort of, 50, 60 pounds.
Oh, they won't be that big in October. They'll have spawned. They'll all be small.
More excuses.
Is that days only as well? Is that all right?
Yeah,
It is.
only.
Up against it, boys, on that.
Nah, we'll be fine. Lewis might be. I'll be all right.
I think that time of year, it's basically wait until, because you can fish an hour into dark.
Fish till 11.
Is that right?
No,
or
it's
more
later than that,
more
yeah.
than
You
that.
fish till about
So it's
11
basically
o'clock.
wait until it gets dark, and then you start getting bites, and then you have to wind in just as it is getting good.
What's the point of that? Why wind in at 11?
And what time can you start again in the morning then?
4 or 5 o'clock.
Well,
something
it doesn't
stupid.
matter what
So
time.
you got a
he can
5 hour
start.
break?
He's not going to start at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Chilly. He will not get out of bed then.
Are you going to be bucketing a swim for him? Does it work like that on there?
don't know, mate.
But yeah, we've got 2 or 3 days. I can't remember. I think it's 3
days
days,
angling.
3 full days of fishing. So
I just think taking in the scenery would be enough. Lovely
Yeah.
place.
I think that's why it's everyone's bucket list, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Just to do,
absolutely,
It's just 'cause
it's
it's a
one
beautiful
fish.
place
That's
to go.
all I want from there.
Yeah.
One fish. That'll do.
Have you got your waterside trip this year?
No.
No,
waterside trip.
Lewis didn't book it.
No,
Right.
they don't like. They don't do it in a user friendly way. Like,
Right.
So on a lot of lakes, when you book like exclusive booking venues, obviously once you've booked a week, you get offered the same date, first
Right.
refusal every year. But Christian doesn't work waterside like that. It's literally first come, first serve. So
right.
yeah. So if you're not on the ball, which we wasn't, I wasn't on the ball because I normally book the trip. We fished in September last year, and then when it came to like booking for this year, everything was gone.
Oh,
Like somebody had already booked our week that we'd had. So
yeah.
so yeah.
Would you go back?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's one of the biggest commons in the country, and it's
Probably
a
the
friendly
biggest.
fish. It's achievable to catch.
It
and
rained then, didn't it?
It did rain, yeah.
Loads of rain.
Um,
Car park was flooded.
Yeah, that was your excuse,
Yeah.
but like,
But yeah, and you can see it. Like if the sun comes out, you see it. You know, and you can be within
Yeah.
10 yards of a mid-60 common, and it's massive.
I've
year-
seen
the
I've
year
seen videos of
before-
it online in the water just this week.
Yeah,
The year before when we went the first time, we saw it within 10 minutes of being there, didn't
yeah, we saw it every
And we
day
saw
for
it for-
4
yeah.
days on the trot, and I nearly caught. Like I don't know, like go into too much like about missed opportunities, but it literally. I was on the phone to you. I was up a tree.
Yeah.
Had a little PVA bag in the margin. It came. Silt was coming out of its gills. Its head was where the rig was. I was shaking like a good un.
That
And I'm like, I'm going to catch it. Like, and then it just lifted up and it just swam away. Never spooked, nothing. And to this day, I don't know if it sucked the hook bait in. Did it just get rid of it?
Yeah, it
Who knows?
happens,
But
mate.
it was
It happens.
that was as close as I'll probably ever get to catching a
Missed
65
opportunity,
pound
he
common.
says. Saw that 360 and it was like, hey, you're having a laugh,
It wasn't
mate.
on. It wasn't on the free. That's where probably went
Was it
wrong.
not?
Yeah. It was just on a little balance D-rig wafter, and
D-rig.
probably
That's the one, wasn't it?
yeah.
Do you know what I was speaking to Mozza about this? He was on about, what would you do in this situation then? So he was telling me a story. He had a group of people who booked it, and the guy who organised it got there like an hour before everyone else. And the guy said, well, you can go and fish. It's your booking. His mates were all turning up when they were going to turn up. He went for a walk. He saw the common, and he was like, it's there. I've got to put a rod on it. And he caught it within 5 minutes.
good angling.
So his mates have all turned up for their trip like, oh, I'm going to catch the common. As they pull in, he's there having his photos with it.
I don't
What-
know. You wouldn't get
What do you
another
know?
opportunity
How can you not
like
be
that.
happy
You
for him?
But do you know what I mean? He was like, you've ruined our trip.
No.
But
They're not mates.
no, they're not. But do you know what I mean? It's hard.
It's difficult.
What would you do?
Fish for it, comes to wood.
You got to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because as soon as it went dark, we were on to me and we were asleep.
But I get
You're shaking your head.
No, I'd have waited for an hour.
See that? How can you call that fishing or angling, as I'd like to go and do? That is such a good thing.
he
that
late?
bloke did.
Or was he there early?
I don't know the full spectrum
Because
of
if they're
it.
late, it's their fault.
Yeah. If they're late,
Yeah.
it's a different kettle of fish. But if he was there earlier than what he arranged to meet them there, then I don't.
It's so hard. The angler in you takes over, doesn't it?
Sort you out. It's not.
But
proper
hold on, did
fishing,
he?
like-
And he booked the whole trip.
He booked the
So
full.
he had done all the organising.
Yeah.
It's
Justice.
difficult.
Justice.
Yeah.
Like
What do you do?
fair play for going and catching it.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
the first thing. But
But being that angler, imagine you drive into the lake. You've booked the trip for months. You've got all your ideas. I've got this rig. I'm going to try that bait. You pull into the car park and you go, what? And your mate say, brilliant for your mate, but on a personal level, you'd be like,
At least they knew.
yeah, I suppose there is that.
Some people went to fish for a £60 fully scaled mirror for a Fox film, and only found out afterwards that the bailiff of the lake had caught that fish an hour or so before I turned up for the film, and the owner never told us. We made the film.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Just an excuse, to be honest.
That's the
so
that lord of the manor, the one that Mozza caught.
Yeah.
So we
What,
were.
did Mozza catch him fully scaled?
He hasn't mentioned it much. So Lewis was booked on to fish there for a Fox film at the same time as we filmed our first Carp Fishing Edges underwater, where it was Mark, Mozza and Tom at Hawcott. And Lewis had left the filming there, so we'd had the first day, left the filming there to go and do this other film on what's the Manor? It's called the Manor. Turned up and wasn't told that the bailiff had just put it back.
Yeah,
and
it's a tricky one. Like, I'm not too bitter about it because,
clearly not.
From the owner's point of view, he had to make a decision pretty quickly. Do I say, like, sorry guys, it's just been caught. He's got a business to run. He wanted the film to promote the venue, selling tickets, and from an angling point of view, it could have got caught again inside 3 days. It's happened before. I've caught big fish before that have been caught only a few days before. Now, if we'd known, we wouldn't have fished. I'd have gone back to the underwater filming. There was no way that I would have fished if I'd known it had just been caught.
Did you ask them if it had just been caught?
Well, no, I asked him if it had been ottered because Kieran had the drone up to get shots, and all these people. Oh, we got the drone up to get shots, and to look for the fish. I'm not hiding. Like, he's got a drone up. I'm looking. Can we see it? It's 3 acres or whatever it is, 4 acres. It's massively bigger than anything else. You're going to see it on the drone. And like 2 days in, we've seen every other fish in the lake and not that one. So I said to the owner, "You sure it hasn't been ottered this winter? Like, it's this, like, it's." And he was like, "No."
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was probably just tucked under a snag somewhere, sulking because it had been caught. Like I say, I don't know. Like, it could have got caught again, and yeah. And it was a good film. I enjoyed fishing there, but at early part of after I found out that it had been caught, just obviously I was annoyed because you were there for that fish and you feel like it was a bit of dishonesty. But at the same time, I am sympathetic to somebody who's running a business and he has to make a snap decision quite quickly about what to do. And
but at some point you would have found out. So why just not say, "Yeah, guys, it got caught"?
Wasn't that also like the fourth or fifth time that bailiff had caught it?
Yeah, I mean, he's caught the guy.
Really?
The guy had caught, like, the way it runs. I don't know if it's still the same now, but I think the exclusive bookings are 6 nights. Like, it runs, I think, Monday to Sunday, or it might be Tuesday to Monday. But so there's no bookings on there for one night of the week. So the owner and his friends and the bailiffs they get to fish it that one night, like a perk. They do work down there. They look after it. Don't have any no qualms with that. Like, that's perfectly fine, But yeah, so he'd done that night, and I think he had one bite, and it was a £60. Like, you can't knock him. He didn't do anything wrong, and
Well,
the
I think
owner.
you can knock him. I think you can knock him a lot. I'm sorry. He would have got the wrath of everything as far as once you've caught a big fish. And that is the problem that people have got there, because there's so many big fish now, it's crazy. But back in, I'm an old man with my walking stick. Back in the day, you caught that big fish and you win.
Red card.
It's like people have said to me, "Why don't I go back to Frimley and catch Charlie's mate again?" Well, it was the most monumental carp fishing moment in my life to catch a common as big as Walker's. It's £56, £58 now. Well, I'd never want to catch that carp again if it grew to be £100-pounder. It wouldn't interest me. And he needed to get his ear bent very badly for doing that. I think that's a disgusting thing to do. Certainly on a water where you're talking about a manager trying to run a decent place for people. And that's the problem with it, isn't it? It gets so business oriented.
Everybody fish for different reasons, though, don't they? Like, there's other fish in that lake he wants to catch. So, like, I don't think that somebody should just be red carded or whatever for catching.
It's not like somebody gives you a red card. It's like self.
What else is in that?
But then if he's a bailiff, it's like it's a perk to be able to get some free fishing.
Yeah, like I say, I think you know it's horses for courses. I think like everybody fishes for different reasons. Like,
but I agree. Because it's a bookings, like it is slightly different. But I agree with Chillett on the sense that if there is, like, if you're on a syndicate and there's like one main one, like there is in that lake, one main one that everyone wants to catch. If you catch that, like the chances of you fishing it again and catching it again, you are taking that away from
other people.
From other people.
Yeah.
So.
You've had your moment, haven't you? You've had your time in the sun and whatever. Give someone else a go, but
like you say, like nowadays, there's a lot of lakes where it's like you've got an A team that people want to tick off everything in the A team, which I think again is also fair enough.
And we had that back in the old days as well. You had A teams. Horton would be a good example of that.
Yeah,
you know, Jack and Shoulders and all those fish. I understand it, but that's not what you said, it taking away other people's glory. I can't abide that. I want people to go fishing and be as happy as I was when I caught it. How happy are you when you pick a fish up for the 6th time?
Yeah.
It can't be a lovely moment. He probably had his photograph taken, showed all his mates, and told them how brilliant he was. I would imagine that's how he got his rocks off.
Maybe like 20 or 30 pound right the way through to being 60 pound. So he's had it. I would argue maybe a 20 pounder is a completely different animal to it being 60. But like I say, each for their own. The thing that I dislike more on these kind of venues is when the fishery owner puts a load of bait in between the trips. So there's like, I'm not saying that he does that on that venue. I don't know how he operates it on that venue, but there are other exclusive booking venues that I know where they have a 1 day break in between party A going and party B arriving.
And it gets filled in.
And the owner goes out and he levers loads of food in for them. Not to make it hard fishing for the next group, it's just because he wants to feed his fish and grow big fish. But obviously the byproduct of that is it makes it way harder for don't get me wrong, sometimes it works in your favour, because if they're really on the food and they're on his thing and they show, then it gives you an indicator where to fish. But yeah, there's definitely, I definitely would liken that more to like bad etiquette on a syndicate where somebody like is pre-baiting or baiting up when they leave when there's other people fishing, which I don't particularly like. I think you bait up when you leave, or you pre-bait when it's quiet and not interfering with other people. There's again somewhere I fished a couple of years ago, a relatively high profile angler fishing it, and I turned up to fish, and he had a big 5 kilo bag of boilies, and he was levering the boilies in this point swim. I said, you fishing in it? You fishing in here? I'll crack on. And he was like, oh, no, I've got my gear down there. I'm just putting some bait in here for later on in the session if I want to move. And I'm like, oh, okay, so now you're taking that swim up. You've just levered a load of bait in this swim. So if I go there, what do I do? If I see fish show here now, can I move before you? Or am I now fishing off the back of you because you bait? So I think that's a little bit, and we're probably going off on a tangent, but that's a thing for me. Like the etiquette when it comes to putting feed in is probably something that bothers me far more than the bailiff fishing and catching it again, or the owner making a business decision. I think that selfishness from fellow anglers where they're just so geared on their own fishing that they don't care about how that impacts others. That's a little bit more.
Etiquette, is that a word that can be used in modern carp fishing?
Yeah. Have you seen it changed over the years, Chilly, from you fishing from
I was just baiting him.
from like the 80s and 90s? Have you seen?
You might have just pulled the pin out of the angler there, mate. I'm telling you, I don't know.
Everyone take
This is the next 20 minutes of the podcast sorted.
Put crash helmets on.
But it is all
it has
changed,
changed. It has changed. It's massively.
We were watching earlier today the Nick Elliott's sort of take on the modern scene that he did with Carp Angle, and to be fair, I think he hit a lot of good points. We both agreed that people are trying to fast track the way through carp with tech and that, but there's arguments on both sides. I can see it, but I think Nick hit. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Play it. Have you got it? Play it.
I have got it. Yes.
Let's listen to.
I'll play it. I just think he hit the money straight on it, and I think a lot of anglers can take a lot from this.
This is controversy.
To success, isn't it? That's like having money and buying yourself a brass. rather than like actually trying to meet a girl and form a relationship, innit? That's all right. I'll just buy one for the night, and that's modern carp fishing. Or it certainly seems for a large percentage is to bypass every bit of skill, every bit of everything, and of course carp fishing. Like, listen, right? We live in a mad world, and most people have got no focus. Like, and carp fishing gives a young man focus, and it's fucking powerful. And in a modern world where everybody is like, you're being put down and pushed to the side, like, and you don't get any focus, you don't get anything about yourself. And carp fishing still can give you that. But when you put a fucking pole out with a camera on it and a fucking deeper sonar and then send the drone up and find them and then put rods to them and all that, that ain't fishing. That ain't hope. That's not focus. There's no drive there. Like, you can't sustain it. It's unsustainable in so many ways. Like, go fishing, live in hope and wishes and dreams and enjoy it. Like, you know, don't make it a scientific thing, like, you know, because you can't. And the more you try to do that, the more you rob all of the joy, all of the, everything that makes fishing great, you destroy it all.
The magic.
You destroy it all. Yeah, well, that's
So there you go. Thoughts on that, guys?
I agree, right, with the majority of what he is saying. For like me personally, like everyone has their own like things that they get out of fishing, but for me, yeah, like it is about like touch and feel and like casting and getting better at it and practicing to get you like get under that bush at 80 yards or whatever in that little gap, and not being able to do it, and then trying and then being able to do it. Like that's like a little win straight away that you wouldn't get if you were putting a pole under there or putting a bait right under there. Like, I like that.
The learning curve.
I like the learning curve. I like the touch. I like the feel. I love casting.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's all of those elements that like add up the anticipation, build that adrenaline to the point of like, you know, sort of fever pitch when you actually get a bite and when you land that fish. That for me, if I was getting something to put the rods out for me, or if I wasn't trying as hard as I can to put the rods out, I wouldn't get the same like feeling personally. But at the same time, he says that like for a young man, he doesn't say for a young woman, but for a young person, like fishing gives you hope, it gives you focus, but if you use technology, it takes that away. I disagree with that, because I'd say it's a hell of a lot more focused and exciting, etc., going fishing and using all of the technology than sat in your bedroom with the door closed, scrolling like just doom scrolling on Instagram or playing video games non-stop. I think it's a hell of a lot better to be outside, even if you're doing those things with technology.
If you've never experienced it before the tech, then you don't know what you're missing. It is a generational thing as well, because the younger anglers in now, they see what it's about, they see the boats, the drones and all that kind of thing, and that's just what they're growing up with. So they've never experienced the prior stuff. So I'm not agreeing with it or disagreeing or whatever, or saying, I've carp fished for 37 years.
Fishing isn't fishing better, or isn't it more exciting, or you get a bigger buzz when it's difficult?
Yeah, of course. I'm not denying that.
You hit on a couple of properly good things at the end, and I agree. Probably a lot more of it than you do, Harry. But you got it absolutely bang on. Angling, certainly carp angling, because there's so many little facets to it, becomes an interesting thing to do. My conversations with my lead are just up there in my top 2 or 3 things in carp fishing, and he'll tell me everything I need to know. You know, you get used to feeling the depths. It's like that Bundy's bit. I'll never forget when I went there. I was hanging on for half an hour before the bloody to get the depth.
Yeah, it was a bit of a slow conversation.
Yeah, it was. But that was the thing, and I mean, we're going to talk about rigs, I suppose, one day, and all those little facets to it. They've got to learn about it, and learning the cast, learning about watercraft. I'm trying to say, people say it's in you or it isn't in you, but I think people can learn. And what they won't get from fishing in the new generation is that learning curve. They get a boat, they get a drone, and they're flatlining from there.
I think it's a much quicker learning curve, isn't it? There's so much information, and you can get so much information by the technology. But then at the same time, is a young angler getting a RT7 that's, what is it, 5, 6, 7 grand or something like that? Is a young, most aren't.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't know. Maybe youngsters don't.
No, what the point I'm trying to make is what we see now, what we've experienced, isn't necessarily going to be what the current generation is seeing and experiencing. In terms of what we've done, we were around before wraps were out there and all that kind of thing. Because nowadays you can go to a venue that says 15 wraps at that tall popular tree there. Regardless whether that's technology with a boat or a drone, that's still an advancement in angling. That we just
makes it easier.
That area. So the point I'm trying to make is you need to kind of forget what we did when we were younger, and I say that we as in I'm a little bit older than you, not quite as old as Chill, but not far off. What we experienced when we were growing up, and it's totally different to what these guys are experiencing now. And you have to understand that. You have to acknowledge that this generation of younger anglers is never going to see or experience what it was years ago. What we feel is the fundamental kind of heart and soul about angling.
You have had that argument in a lot of through the period of time. The hair rig, people thought it was too much of an advancement, too easy to catch a carp, and it was a ridiculous thing that you just went and caught. You catch 6 in a season, you catch 6 in a session after that. A bite alarm, people were mad. Why do you want a bite alarm? Something that goes bleeps. I always remember Chris Yates in the old Passion for Angling with his side up peanut on and all that kind of stuff, because he didn't want to use a hair rig, but he did in the end. It's a difficult thing, but I genuinely don't think there's enough. I mean, I spoke to a shop owner this a couple of years ago, and he walked in with his father, and he bought everything for his kid, and he was on the phone while he was in the shop talking to somebody else about buying his son a bait boat. 2 years later, the bloke came back in the shop and asked him if he could sell all his stuff to him, because and the father said there was nothing for him to learn. He said there's so many carp in these lakes, it doesn't matter where he put it. It didn't matter about anything, and that's another subject we haven't hit on.
That's
the population of carp in the lakes.
That's what Nick hits on there. That
focus. I mean, you
it.
look at Nick's youth. I know Nick. I've bumped into him over the years. But in his young days, you go back to very early big carp magazines and things like that. I think it was the only place he ever put any stuff in, and it told you about his travels around the Colne Valley and the things that he did. And the way that he caught those fish, and it just blows your mind what he did. He was so obsessed by it. He didn't do a lot. There were a few things probably he shouldn't have done, I know, but and that was the passion. And you don't see that passion today. The only passion I see on the bank is how many they can catch, how interested a tackle company will be in them, and will I be a superstar in the future. That is what I get asked more about than anything else on this planet.
Well,
what's your take?
Well, I've sat quietly and listened to everybody's opinions, but on the whole, I think Nick's talking a lot of shit with what he says. I think it's quite hypocritical from him to talk in the way he does, because he does use technology. He uses a rowing boat with an electric outboard motor, and he uses an echo sounder on that rowing boat for when he's fishing venues where you can use boats. So is a bait boat only acceptable if your bait boat's big enough that you can ride it? Because that's effectively what he said.
Fair one.
Yeah. And he talks about, and this isn't just, I'm not just calling Nick here, all the people who agree with Nick, a lot of them are hypocrites as well that agree, because they will fish with a rowing boat and they'll take out an aquascope and they'll look over the side of the boat with an aquascope to see if their bait's still there or whether the bait's been eaten. And then they'll react to that by putting more in, not putting so much in. They can lower their rig and they can see it's all perfect. That's fine. But if you do it with the bait boat and the underwater camera, then that's not fine. So it's like you're still using your eyes.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, would you want a young person coming into fishing to go out on the water in a boat and potentially fall in and drown? Or would you rather they stay on the bank and drive the boat?
How many venues in this country, and I would imagine I haven't got, I've got too many fingers, are you allowed to go out in a boat and do what you said?
Yeah, there isn't a lot.
No, but a lot of overseas venues you can, holiday venues in France and public water fishing, which is becoming more popular.
Yeah.
Likewise, I'll carry on. I know two people that have fallen out of trees and that are paralysed in wheelchairs from falling out of trees where they've been up trees watching fish and they've fallen and become paralysed from that. Now, do I want to, in my 40s, climb a tree and potentially fall out of that tree? I mean, getting up the tree's hard enough.
I'd like
for
to
me.
see that to start with, to be honest.
But trust me, the journey back down's harder.
You don't call him
Or do I want to,
Lewis
if the
Squirrel.
rules allow and I do it respectfully, do I want to put a drone up and just cover my bit of water? I don't want to fly it over other people's swims and be disrespectful and stuff like that. I want to use it. But for me, I feel safer and not climbing up a tree and using that to my advantage. Now that doesn't mean that it's. Does the accomplishment feel exactly the same? Probably it doesn't, but you're still getting the same result. So Nick mentioned using the technology being similar to using a prostitute compared to going out and putting your best clothes on and using your best chat-up lines. I, again, slightly disagree there. I think the comparison is more with dating websites and old-fashioned way of getting yourself a girlfriend or boyfriend. So, because what he's saying is if you pay for it, you get it. Well, that's not the case. Pay for it, you get it means you go to a fish farm, you buy a carp and you hold it up for a picture, right? That's the ultimate shortcut, okay?
Yeah,
So this is more using a dating app, which a lot of people use nowadays and find love or whatever, they find their one. It's a shortcut, yes. But you found your wife, hypothetically, with a dating app. I found my wife the old way. We're still both married. We're still both happy. I'm not looking at you in this day and age going, oh, you used a dating app, so you're not as a good a Lothario as I am or whatever. I don't look at it like I don't see it like that. So I think that there are shortcuts to it, but ultimately, all of these old school anglers, the one thing that you see that goes through all of them is we're hunters. It's in us. We're hunters. Chilly, you'd agree. Yeah, you're a hunter. Yeah, the big caveman. I'm a hunter. It's in our instinct to go track the fish down. Or maybe you wouldn't use the terminology, but lots of anglers use this. I'm a hunter. It's our instinct, hunter-gatherer, and it's me against the carp, and I'm going to hunt it. Well, if you're going hunting with a bow and arrow, and I'm going hunting with a gun, I'm going to kill way more food than you are. And in a day and age where if you're competing with other anglers, because that is a lot of fishing nowadays in the UK, you're not just competing against fish, you're competing against the other anglers. It's a race to the bottom, unfortunately. And like Chilly said the other day, he fished somewhere where there are bait boats everywhere. If you don't use a bait boat, you're going to be severely disadvantaged on them venues. So you can be like a moral old school angler like Damien Clark. I just won't fish those venues because I don't want to get pulled into that rat race. I will fish venues where there's no drones, where there's no bait boats, and then I'm competing with the other anglers on a playing field I'm comfortable with. And I know plenty of anglers like that. And I would prefer to be on a venue where bait boats and drones are banned because that is how I would prefer to fish. But if I'm on a venue where they're allowed and there's other people doing it, I'm not going to sit there and whinge about how the old days were better and how, because basically that's a cover-up for your own insecurities that these anglers are catching more fish than you. And rather than say, they don't count because they did this, they did that, they did this, the other. Simon Croatia comment on it. I thought it hit the nail on the head quite a bit about people's bruised egos, these older anglers having bruised egos because there's so many big fish now with this technology. You know, somebody had to fish 10 years to catch 150-pounder doing it the old school way. Now somebody can do that with technology and high stock venues doesn't make them a better angler. It's not a competition. You fish for yourself. As long as you're happy, who cares? Don't break any rules, or don't break any rules that are so bad that you put in the fish in danger, or you
get blacklisted.
I don't break any rules.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, where it's I fish for myself, because my reply to that video is all my own, like, for me, how I like to fish. I couldn't give a toss how anyone else wants to fish. Like, if they,
you're pretty judgmental of me when I've used a bait boat before.
Only out of banter. Only out of banter. I wouldn't say, like, to someone who I don't know, I wouldn't belittle their captures. You caught arguably one of the best carp that ever lived. You caught that using a bait boat. You told me about the whole, like, idea of what you were going to do.
Whoa, hang on.
You used a bait boat in that campaign a lot to do what you achieve.
I used a camera on a bait boat to find a clear spot, which I then started to bait with a spom.
You baited with the bait boat?
No, with the spom and the bait boat. I had the wraps all done.
Still found it with the boat.
Yeah, but when I caught casting a rig and everything. So for me, that's where you get this thing of utilise some technology. If you rely on that camera on a bait boat, it will absolutely crush your mind, because I've seen so many friends do it. They drive it out, drop the camera, check their ear. They've got the camera swinging around more time in the day than the fish are. They're not going in. Whereas if you use it in your, like Chilly's, this is definitely something that you say, time spent in reconnaissance, seldom wasted.
Yeah.
If you use that technology in your reconnaissance phase to be able to find some areas that you then work in the more traditional manner, then I think that's a happy medium between it. So yeah, you utilise some of the technology, but don't become reliant on it. Because if you become reliant on it, then for sure you need to be able to when you go somewhere where you can't use it. You're done. You're knackered.
Did he say he sat there in silence for a while?
Yeah, he did for a while. But I wasn't like, I'm not.
I haven't finished, by the way.
I'm not belittling your cat like that. You told me that you were everything that you were going to do,
interesting
and then
thing.
you went and did it and caught that fish, and I couldn't have been happier for you.
But
I remember I spoke to Paddy Webb.
This is going to go
from years ago at Carp Talk. One, he congratulated me for making a fish look interesting from a very late where the fish were very boring, which I was very chuffed about. And we spoke about bait boats. And by that time, in about 20 years of it all going on and everything, they'd had 6 people had reported they'd caught a fish with a bait boat. And he reckoned, by judging by the waters they were fishing and all the rest of it, probably 35% of them, those fish that have been reported over those years, were caught using a bait boat. And 6 people over all those years reported in their report, their write-up, and I see it from anglers today on the internet. I don't really follow the magazines anymore, which is really sad for me.
Many left.
They don't talk about using it, and I know that they are.
Yeah,
I could name.
I don't agree with that. I think be loud and proud. If you're gonna do something.
Do you know why they don't? Because they know it's cheating.
No, it's because. No,
because
they don't want to be judged by people. That's why their fear is to be judged by people who are going to say that doesn't count or that isn't as meritorious. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, but
that's why.
If your balls are as big as they say they are in other circumstances, then be loud and proud with it. Why aren't they loud and proud?
They don't want the merit taken away.
They don't want the merit. Taken away from it.
And I think that's changing. That is changing. More and more people are being like.
I'm probably the most unsociable git on the face of this planet. I live in a tiny little universe of me and Lynn, and that's about as far as it goes. But the people I talk to don't want it, and I understand it because I don't want it, and I think the satisfaction of what Harry was talking about, and I genuinely, I'm not angry with them. I'm angry, if you like, because they're not getting the best out of angling, which, in complete and utter honest terms, is casting a baited hook with rod and line. That is what angling is. And all those little things, finding it with a bait boat, not happy. I wouldn't want to find that. I'm not taking anything from you, Louis, but I wouldn't want that. I want to find it with my lead.
I would say, like, people always say, they're not. There's no skill, or they're not. I think it's just a different skill, right? I can tell you now, like, learning to drive one is it's not that easy. Like you go around in circles, blah 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 blah.
I don't think you can start on saying, "Oh, you're learning to drive a boat."
No, honestly,
he did that in a rowing boat.
Learning to keep the thing actually working. That's a skill.
There is a different skill in, like, right. You say there's not a skill in it, right? Would a really really good angler with a bait boat catch more fish than an average?
Yes,
of course. Right, because they will utilise it with their watercraft and their skills and everything. Because, for example, give you a quick one.
It wouldn't happen if you didn't want to, like me.
Jason Hayward talked about this on a podcast not long ago. He fished a venue where everybody's using cameras on bait boats, and he's old school. He casts. Everybody's using the camera. They find the most blatant clear spot going, and they drop on it. Mm-hmm. Whereas he's fishing in the light weed and the chod, spreading bait and catching. So just because they've got the bait boat, if they're not utilising it in the right way, they're still... So there's a skill there to be able to pick out the right type of feature, blah, 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 blah. But I will talk about how hard it is, from personal experience, to use a bait boat and a drone in conjunction. So I'm going to defend...
It just gets worse. You are pouring more and more fuel on my fire.
I was fishing a lake where bait boats are banned, drones weren't. And there was this. I put the drone up. And there's a beautiful clear spot under this tree. Fish have been showing there all morning that morning, and I thought I can't cast. You couldn't cast under this overhang. It wasn't possible. So I thought, got the bait boat in the car. There's nobody around. I'll just.
It was never in the car.
This wasn't Green Acres, was it?
No, it wasn't Green Acres. So I've got the bait boat out quickly, and I've got this drone up. I've got two remotes now. I've got a bait boat remote and a drone remote, and I'm trying to watch the screen. I'm trying to drive the bloody boat straight under this tree. It's blowing a real hooligan, right? So I've got my bail arm opened. The line's peeling off the bail arm. I'm trying to drive the boat, drive the drone, blah, 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 blah. I've dropped the boat, gets out there. I drop the rig. I drive the bait boat back. The next morning, I'm thinking I'm going to have a fit. Like, I've cheated to the ultimate cheating here. Like we're not just 10-pin bowling with a rail.
You've just said the words to underline everything.
Yeah, but it was against the rules. It was against the rules.
Okay.
So they start showing. I'm thinking any minute, nothing. And then when I came to pack up, when I reeled in, I only made like 10 turns of the handle, and my rig was at my feet, and I was like, and it subsequently turned out, after I thought about what had happened, is when I thought I was steering the drone, I'd actually steered the bait boat and opened the hopper, dropped the rig 10 yards out in the weed, carried on driving an empty bait boat, but because it was windy, my line was still peeling off the reel because it was just sort of going off with the wind, and then I've just like tightened up, put the bar in, and thought, oh yeah, it's only like 70 yards, so it's not like you're noticing that there's like 150 yards of line missing off your reel. And some would say that was calm.
That is calm.
And would a good angler with a bait boat catch more?
Good angler.
This is my point. This is my point. Somebody better than me with that level of skill would have caught fish, and I didn't, because I'm not very good at using bait boats or drones. So I would just say...
So what you're suggesting then, the guy we spoke about earlier, the little lad, 10, 12 years old, whatever, sat on his bed killing people on his machine, he's hopeless if he gets blown up as he comes out the door into the room and he's trying to shoot 20 people, then stab 20 people to death on the next level and blow 30.
I don't know what lakes you fish, but that's never happened on any lake I fish.
No, what I'm saying is you think that you're trying to inject a skill that isn't there. It's not a skill. It's so
learning
easy.
to read an echo sounder is a skill. I think anybody who's used an echo sounder would say there's skill involved in.
When it goes down a slope and tells you the depth, and then comes up the slope and tells you the depth, and then you hit the bank.
Look,
What is so difficult? Or you might do, if you're lucky, see the drop off of the bank, and then there's a little lump there. Yeah. Oh, well, that's a feature. And then you go down there. What is so difficult about that? What's so difficult about pressing a couple of buttons on? I'm sorry, mate.
I don't know. Ask him. He just failed to get it 70 yards out on a clear spot.
Yeah, I must admit.
Look, I think we're going to get around in. You can say
it'll be good to get people's opinions in the comments.
It would. Very definitely.
Can I have a brief moment? Sat here in silence for a while. And
you have, mate.
No, you said two words. You said happy at one point and ego. Yeah. regardless of what, and I'm like Harry said before, he couldn't care what other people did or thought or whatever. The point is, you got to be happy. If it makes you happy to go and do that, go and do it. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd prefer to go somewhere, fish 10 wraps, 120 yards, 140, 150 yards, cast bomb, do this, whatever, all that kind of thing. Years ago, I stopped really chasing targets and all that kind of stuff, and just started enjoying my fishing. Yeah, the little that I do when it's not raining. And the point of being is regardless of whatever you choose to do or use, as long as you're happy, you've got to go out there doing it. So if that little lad wants to go out and use a bait boat and he gets out and he does 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights a week, whatever he can do, and he's enjoying it and he's being happy, fine, great, crack on and do it. You know, ultimately, you said about bruised egos. You only have a bruised egos if you care about somebody, what thinks about you.
Yeah.
Don't you? And if you go and fish for yourself, do your own thing, you know, you might have caught a 25-pounder last year and people go, oh, it's only 25 pound. But if you fished a lake with the biggest fish in there was 25 pound and it was a scaly, lovely one,
can't do any
and you
more than
caught
that.
it,
Just be
what
nice
more
to
do you
people.
want?
Say well done. Shake their hand.
Yeah,
And if
just
it's
be
not for
happy.
you, go somewhere else.
Just be
where
happy.
you can. There's plenty of places where you can find the fishing that suits you.
Carp
Regardless
fishing,
of what
yeah.
it is, that's the beauty of what we do.
There is so much fishing out there.
Carp fishing changed many years ago, and I remember saying this to somebody. Years gone by, bounty hunters will go out and target 1 or 2 fish in the country, and they get a pat on the back and well done for catching that fish. Because at that time they were casting, they were doing this, all the old school things that we talk about, they were doing to catch that fish. As years have gone on, those 4, 5 50s in the country. I go back even to when there's only 4 or 5 40s in the country. Yeah. Now you've got that in little lakes. Things have moved on significantly. Nobody bounty hunts the biggest fish in the country anymore, do they? Because they don't put any kudos or history to behind the biggest fish. So now people are more like, well, I'm going to go and catch this scaly, leany, and it's 60 years old. And that's what they're getting the kudos for. A lot of the younger generation are chasing the 50, 60 pounders that are swimming around in lakes that have been managed. And that's the difference. Back years ago when we started fishing, carp fishing, lakes weren't fishery managed. Fish naturally got to, I say fishery managed, they were illegally fishery managed. People moving fish around everywhere, weren't they? But lakes near me, there was a big lake near me, and 2 of those fish in there that were in Tatton. Those fish came from another venue down the road that were carried on a moped in a sack to that lake. Yeah, they were fishery managed, but nowadays the commercial fishery managed, and there's loads of big fish in the country, and you can go out and catch loads of big fish. But going back to what we used to do, people bounty hunted the biggest fish in the country. They don't anymore. People bounty hunt certain fish that they like and they look good and they think are great.
What we can all take from that, I think, is it's down to the individual of being happy, whether you're casting a rod or using a bait boat or a drone or an echo, whatever it is. For me, it's down to the individual angler and whatever makes you smile. I think we can all sort of agree on that point.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
we have our different.
So we can't all
There's a
agree
little
on
bit
it,
of common
no.
ground, just a little bit. We might meet in the middle.
There's a little bit.
Yeah, but guys, it's been really, really good chatting to you, getting your points of view. But before we go, I just want to touch on a very dear friend of ours, that being Jim Wilson. I know he was a good friend to many of us here, and just a couple of words from you guys, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Lewis obviously is very, very close with him. I don't know how easy it'll be for Lewis to talk about him.
Well, we've got the funerals in literally two days' time.
Yeah.
He was just the nicest man. Very, very, very good angler. Caught some amazing fish, but above everything, everyone who met him to a person would say that he's lovely. You're just comfortable in his presence. There's a WhatsApp group with everyone who sort of knew him and stuff, and there are so many people in that group who feel really close to him as a friend. It just sort of shows the sort of level of man.
I think he was. I mean, I was very unfortunate, I think. a very unlucky man. I never got to know Jim well. I only met him a couple of times, and each time I spoke to him, you sort of walked away with a skip in your step. He was a lovely guy to talk to, and I put a little note, because I didn't know him that well, on the where we put those things on the internet. And I said I was just an unlucky man. I didn't know him simply through what you guys, how you spoke about him, and
He was an unbelievable person who always put other people ahead of any of his own issues, and he had a lot of personal issues over the years with losing family members and friends of his own, but he'd always lead with how other people were, never about his own issues. And he's gone way too soon. And I think he'd be chuckling listening to our conversation, because he was definitely not a drone and bait boat fan. He was definitely in the Chilly traditionalist camp with that. And
True, but the last filming I did with him at Birch, he brought one with him. He did bring a boat with him.
Yeah, I think.
He didn't use it,
No.
but he did. And then he cast out, and then he caught one anyway.
So he's put it out and he's gone, nah, this isn't me.
Even when we fished the big sailing pit, the ocean together, where rowing boats were allowed, and it was only me and him really fishing it, he still preferred to cast and spom. I could never get my head round it. Like, you can go out there with a boat and you can tip like a whole bucket of bait over. You can see it with the aquascope. You can drop your rigs, everything. And he was there, spodding it up. He'd use the boat. He'd use the boat from time to time for areas and signs of where the fish had been. But he was way happier you. Loved the casting. Like you, Chilly, the lead talking back to him.
He did
loved spomming. I think if you'd said to him, like, I need to put a bucket of bait in, mate, do you want to spom it for me? He'd do it. He loved the spom. He loved that part of it.
I know why, but I won't go into that. We'll get into that in another tactical issue.
But Friday's going to be a really hard day.
Yeah.
Really hard day. To
Please give my regards to the family, won't you?
We will.
I know people, when someone passes, everybody says, "Oh, he was a lovely man," and all that kind of thing, and it always gets said.
Don't say it about me.
But I honestly don't. I honestly don't ever remember Jim having a bad word to say against anybody.
No.
And I mean anybody, even when you're having those little heart-to-heart moments when you're just churning away. Unless he spoke to Lewis about me, I don't know. But yeah, he just never had a bad word to say about anybody. I only spoke to him a few days before. He sent me some. He loved up baits like I do. We're always tinkering and calling each other about up baits and stuff. And they're in my drawer. There's three colours of the latest ones that he made that were very similar to mine. I messaged him and he was
arrived
like,
not low.
Literally a few days. He messaged me, he said, "Have you got them?" I was like, yeah. I said, "They smell familiar." He went, "Yeah, I know, I thought you might like them." And they're pretty much a tweak on one of the recipes I've used for the last few years.
A leveler, isn't it, when someone passes?
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of mates, and
He was a great guy. He was a great guy. So
Bloody good
rest
angler
easy,
as well.
Jim.
Phenomenal angler.
Yeah.
Rest easy.
Rest easy, Jimbo. But yeah, guys, just want to say a massive thank you for tuning in to the first ever Fox podcast. Thank you for the anglers here with your views and everything else, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come, and we'll all catch you on the next one.